Any views expressed in this film are those of the artists, recorded as part of the Future is Loading exhibition. As an artist and someone marginalised by the concept of normality, what does this term mean to you?
The term normality to me really walks hand in hand with ableism.
This concept of a new normal fits into an ever evolving nature of the concept of normal. What's normal for me is not normal or necessarily normal for anyone else. I think it's important to look at where we've come from and where we're at now. So for me, normal comes with, well, I associate normal with in a negative way. And again, touching on Ripple, it's that idea of what's normal for people who have disabilities may not be normal for those who don't.
In Iran, we have minority groups such as the people. But we would not say deaf or hearing. We would say we were normal, meaning if you can hear, we are normal. If you are deaf, we are not normal. So the deaf community have been campaigning for acceptance. This doesn't mean that hearing people can look down at the deaf community. Being deaf is abnormal and we have your own version of normal. Who created that concept of normal? The majority. So minority group will always struggle and suffer under the label of not normal. What does the word normal mean anyway? There is no true definition of the word normal. The word normal is not defined enough. It's just a term created by the wider society, looking to label people who are different to them.
So I will say that at the beginning of the quarantine, I was having a very, very difficult time because I had to return home for health reasons unrelated to the quarantine. And then from my house, I sort of watched everything unfold. And I realized that I had thought I was going to be at home for a week or two, resting, and then returning to LA. I quickly realized that I would not be returning to LA for several months, and I haven't been back since then. And that is to say, I struggled greatly with the language that was being used around the quarantine and the sort of trajectories that were being put into place where dates were being set, where things would return to normal, where normality would be restored. And I would see a lot of people sort of taking great comfort in that, people counting down to the days where the stay-at-home order was lifted and they could return to normality. They could resume their normal schedule. Again, using that word because what was happening and what is happening, a lot of people are treating it as an anomaly that's sort of just being drawn out longer than they would like. And for me, I was I was sitting there watching people talk this way and sort of contending with the fact that even when these dates for the normality to return came, it would not be safe for me to leave the house. I would likely not be in any physical condition to leave the house anyways because of my own pre-existing conditions, not even taking into consideration the extreme risk I'm at of contracting coronavirus. So I was really struggling to articulate why I was sort of feeling so frustrated and angry and sort of like exhausted when people were talking this way and using this language of normality returning. Every standard of normal is based upon able-bodiedness. And so when people are talking about what is normal, when that will return, when they'll be able to go back out to dinner again, when they'll be able to, go back to the gym, I can't relate to that. I can't engage in that, and I can't abide by those timelines. It's like an indefinite quarantine for me in many ways, because I've spent a lot of time in isolation before this pandemic, and I surely will spend a lot of time again outside, in isolation again following. And I think that, it really illustrates people's learned language around their body and around what health and what, like, just thinking about health as something that isn't associated with like the word healthy, but like is like sort of about bodily processes and everything. People have really never had to think seriously about being at risk. For me, what is normal is, thinking about that every day. And so it's difficult watching people have the privilege of not ever having had to acknowledge that and continuing to have the privilege of being ignorant to that, even in times like this. When you define something as normal and it operates on your body being able to move through the world unimpeded, then you are eclipsing and marginalizing an entire population of people who don't have that privilege and perhaps never had that privilege. So,
what does this term mean to you?
I mean, that means to me that a lot of things have changed since going into this kind of time. And I find novel things is difficult. It's more difficult now with these new social distancing rules in, where it's I find walking more stressful and daily routines, and they haven't actually figured out how to pass people and how to make sure I've got the right amount of space when I'm waiting in lines and waiting, a bit longer for things, and try and make sure everything's all. Make sure I'm all abiding by the rules as much as possible.
I guess you were talking about like daily routines and stuff as well, right?
Yeah.
You can view the Future is Loading exhibition on our Instagram and our website at www.shapearts.org.uk.